With our palettes customized and the line drawing of our lamp open, it's time to set up the actual file we'll be using to illustrate our lamp. However, before we do that, close down all the palette groups except for the Layers group. Then move it off to the right side of the screen so we have a little room to work. Now, create a completely new file that's 8 inches wide by 10 inches high with a resolution of 150 pixels per inch. Set the mode to RGB at 8-bit with a white background and name it 2-lamp so it corresponds to the artwork included on this CD. This is the correct file size we need for our final illustration, and it's big enough to give us a good quality inkjet print. With both files open and set side by side so that we can see at least part of each, go to the Tools palette and select the Move tool. Click on the original line drawing so it's the active file, then click and drag the image, bringing it over to the new file we just created. I like to do this so that I can go ahead and close the original line drawing, preserving it just in case I might need it at some later date. With just this new file open, go over to the Tools palette near the bottom and click on the full screen mode with menu bar. That's the middle button. This will hide the desktop and allow us to see our brushes and other tools even if we're not directly over the file. And if you're in Photoshop CS or later, using the hand tool allows you to move the entire file around on the screen, something you weren't able to do in previous versions. Now, to help me position, rotate, and resize my lamp, I'm going to bring up my rulers and create two guides, one horizontal and one vertical, centered on the page. Then I'll lock my guides so they won't move, and hide my rulers to conserve desktop space. With that done, I want to go to my Layers palette and make sure I'm on the correct layer, the one with our line drawing. Now, that may sound silly since we only have 2 layers at this point, but I think it's important to get in the habit of checking which layer you're on. It's real easy to accidentally start working on the wrong layer. I watch my students do it all the time, and to be honest, I'm guilty of it myself sometimes, so it's always a good idea to check. With the correct layer selected, go to the Edit menu and select the Free Transform tool. I'm choosing this tool because I want to resize and rotate my lamp at the same time, something I can't do with the other transform tools. When I do, it will put a bounding box around my line drawing. If I move my cursor inside that box and click and drag, I can move my image around the page. If I move my cursor outside the box until it turns into a little bent double arrow, then click and drag, the image will rotate. Lastly, clicking and dragging on the corners of the bounding box, not the sides, while holding down the Shift key, will enlarge and reduce my image without losing its proportions. However, it's very important to note that when resizing an image using the Shift key, always let go of the mouse first, then the Shift key. If you don't, you'll most likely lose your proportions and distort your image. Using the Free Transform tool, go ahead now and straighten the lamp. You can use the horizontal guide and the lower edge of the lampshade for reference. Center the lamp on the vertical guide, then enlarge it so it fits comfortably on the page. When you get it similar to mine, hit the Return key, Enter if you're on a PC, to complete the transform. When the line drawing is the correct size, the next step is to clean it up so it will be easier to create the paths we'll need to begin our illustration. I'll do that in 2 steps. First, using the Levels adjustment, move the white point slider over to the left to remove the background gray. Then, using the Hue and Saturation adjustments, I'll lighten the drawing with the lightness slider, making the black lines just barely visible so they won't obscure the paths we'll be making in the next lesson. When that's done, go to the Layer Palette options and flatten the file. Rename the layer by double-clicking on the word Background. Leaving the default name Layer 0 is fine. Then lock it so it can't accidentally get messed up. Something that's a lot easier to do than you might think. When that's done, don't forget to save the file on your hard drive. Use the Save As option under your File menu and again call it 2-lamp to correspond to this tutorial, making sure to save it as a Photoshop document.